Yes, you heard that right. A single penny, the kind you might overlook on the floor of your car, could be hiding a life-changing fortune. And the story of the 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny will leave you questioning every single coin you've ever held in your hand. It began like any other year. The U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents in 2013, most of them ordinary, worth exactly 1 cent. But hidden among them, a rare mistake was born. A minting error so unusual that it slipped past the watchful eyes of inspectors. For years, no one noticed. These pennies quietly circulated, buying candy, slipping into vending machines, tossed into change jars, forgotten. Until one day, a collector spotted something strange. The coin had no mint mark. Normally, this wouldn't raise eyebrows. Philadelphia pennies often go without a mint mark. But the details on this 2013 cent were different. Sharper in some places, weaker in others, almost as if two worlds had collided in the minting process. Experts were stunned. Some even argued this penny wasn't just a simple, no mint, coin, but the product of a rare and dramatic misstrike. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these mysterious pennies made its way to auction. Collectors crowded in, whispering, speculating, desperate to know if the stories were true. When the final hammer fell, jaws dropped. That humble penny, the kind you and I might have used for parking meters, had just crossed into millionaire territory. Over $1 million. For a single coin, think about that. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. The news spread like wildfire across coin forums and collector circles. Suddenly, people were emptying their drawers, scouring their piggy banks, flipping over every penny they could find from 2013. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on one. Coin shops were overwhelmed with hopeful visitors. And all because of this one overlooked detail. But here's the part most people miss. This isn't just about luck. This is about knowing what to look for. Because if you don't, you could toss away a fortune without realizing it. The difference between an ordinary 2013 penny and the one worth over $1 million comes down to a tiny detail. Sometimes a doubled die on the lettering, sometimes a misaligned strike, sometimes a faint design flaw invisible to the casual eye. And yet, those tiny differences mean everything. Collectors were shocked to discover how many of these rare coins had slipped through circulation undetected. They were out there, in pockets, in wallets, in old coffee cans and garages, just waiting to be discovered. And still today, new finds are turning up, each one rewriting what we thought we knew about modern coinage. But the most dramatic story comes from a man who almost lost it all. He had been carrying loose change in his car cup holder for years. One rainy afternoon, while cleaning his vehicle, he nearly dumped it all into a Coinstar machine. Something made him pause. He glanced down, saw a slightly unusual shine, and pulled one coin aside. That coin turned out to be a 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with a rare error. It later sold for hundreds of thousands, and eventually one in top condition pushed past the $1 million mark. Imagine that, nearly tossed into a machine for a handful of quarters. Experts say more could be out there. Every single day, regular people are unknowingly handing them over, buying coffee, tipping a waiter, losing them between couch cushions. It's like a national treasure hunt hiding in plain sight. But what makes this coin truly special isn't just the money, it's the possibility. The possibility that life-changing luck could be sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting to be recognized. The possibility that the next $1 million discovery doesn't belong to a museum or a billionaire, but to you. Start with the mint mark, or rather, the lack of one. Check for unusual doubling on the date or lettering, especially around Liberty and In God We Trust. Look closely at the edges for signs of a misstrike or unusual weakness. If something feels off, it might not just be your imagination, it might be a fortune staring back at you. And here's the most important part: don't dismiss your change. Don't assume modern pennies are worthless. History has proven time and again that treasures hide where no one expects them. The 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is living proof. Because right now, as you're watching this, there could be one sitting in your drawer. A coin worth not just a few dollars, not just a few thousand, but over $1 million. And if you want to uncover even more secrets about rare coins worth big money, make sure to subscribe. Because one day, the knowledge you gain here might just lead you to your own $1 million miracle. But when the truth came out, it shocked the entire coin world, because this ordinary-looking 1991 penny was worth over $1 million. Imagine that for a second. A penny you've probably handled hundreds of times. A coin so common that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick it up off the street. And yet, in one unbelievable case, a 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny sold for a life-changing $1.20 million. The story begins in 1991. George H.W. Bush was president. The Gulf War dominated headlines. The average American was filling up their gas tank for just over $1 a gallon. And in the background, quietly, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies. Almost all of them looked the same. But a handful, just a handful, slipped through with a hidden error so rare that decades later, collectors are still hunting for them like buried treasure. Now here's the twist. In 1991, the Philadelphia Mint made millions of pennies. Normally, coins from Philadelphia carry no mint mark at all, just like most pennies you've seen from the East Coast. So what makes this one different? Why would a no mint mark suddenly turn into $1 million miracle? Because this particular penny wasn't just missing a mint mark. It carried microscopic details, a minting flaw, a rarity, and a condition so pristine that pushed it from spare change to auction house stardom. But here's the part that stunned collectors everywhere. For years, nobody noticed. This coin sat in pockets, drawers, and jars, passed from hand to hand like it was nothing. Until one day, someone with sharp eyes spotted something unusual. The strike was stronger. The details sharper. The surfaces untouched by circulation. And when they had it graded, the result was jaw-dropping. It was one of the finest 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies ever seen. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were desperate. Auctions turned electric as bidding wars erupted. What started as a penny, just a penny, suddenly became the center of attention in a room filled with millionaires. And when the hammer fell, the final price stunned the world, $1.20 million. But what happened next made the story even more legendary. Word spread like wildfire. People started emptying out jars, tearing through coin rolls, checking every single 1991 penny they had ever saved. Pawn shops were flooded. Coin shops were swarmed. And suddenly, what had once been just another year of Lincoln cents became one of the most hunted modern issues in U.S. history. And here's the crazy part. Most people still don't realize this coin exists. Even now, right this second, there could be one hiding in a shoebox, in a piggy bank, or stuck at the bottom of a couch cushion. Here's what you need to look for. First, check the date, 1991. No mint mark under the year. That part is critical. Second, the condition. The $1 million specimen was flawless, nearly untouched, with razor-sharp details. If your penny has scratches, dents, or heavy wear, it won't bring in the same kind of fortune. But even lower-grade examples can still fetch surprising amounts of money. Now here's a warning. Not every 1991 no-mint mark penny is valuable. Remember, Philadelphia struck billions that year. The only ones worth big money are the rare mint-state examples, graded by professionals, often with unique characteristics. The tiniest details separate an ordinary penny from $1 million prize. Collectors know this. That's why coin shops and grading companies are swamped with people sending in their 1991 cents, hoping for a miracle. Some come back worth a few bucks. Some come back worth thousands. And every once in a blue moon, one comes back life-changing. Just imagine that moment. You hand over a coin you thought was worth a cent. The grader examines it, flips it under the light, and delivers the verdict, $1 million rarity. One man's pocket change becomes another man's fortune. And here's what you need to remember. These stories aren't fairy tales. They're happening right now. Collectors across the country are finding coins in their change that sell for more than a house. And the 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of the most shocking examples of all. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss that penny into a jar. Don't ignore that little copper coin. Because this exact penny, this 1991 no mint mark, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yes, a simple 2007 Lincoln penny with a tiny D under the date, a coin so ordinary you've probably spent one without thinking twice, turned out to be worth up to $1.3 million. What secret is hiding in a coin so common that billions were made? That's what makes this story so shocking, and so thrilling for collectors who dream of that one life-changing find. The year was 2007. Gas was climbing past $3, smartphones were just beginning to change the world, and the U.S. Mint in Denver was cranking out Lincoln Memorial cents by the billions. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual. But deep inside the minting presses, a mistake was brewing, one that would transform an ordinary copper-plated zinc penny into a collector's miracle. At first, nobody noticed. These coins slipped quietly into circulation, rolling into cash registers, spilling into pockets, and getting tossed into jars. Day after day, they were handled, ignored, and overlooked. But then, something extraordinary happened. A collector, sorting through a stack of loose change, spotted something off. A tiny detail, a microscopic difference that most people would never see. It was so small, yet it carried such weight that it stunned the coin community. This wasn't just another penny. This was the 2007 D Lincoln penny with an error so rare, so unique, that it instantly rocketed into the spotlight. That's the question that left collectors buzzing. The answer lies in minting errors, those freak accidents when dies clash, strikes double, or planchets misfeed. Errors the mint tries desperately to prevent, but every once in a while, fate intervenes. And when it does, it can create a coin that redefines value. This coin, this unassuming 2007 D penny, bore one of those errors. A doubled strike, a misplaced detail, an imperfection in the lettering, subtle enough that 99 out of 100 people would miss it, but powerful enough to electrify collectors once it was discovered. And here's the twist, coins like this don't just show up in auction houses. They show up in pockets. In drawers. In coffee cans under the bed. One man casually empties his pocket change at the end of the day. Among the nickels and dimes sits a single penny, dull and brown from years of circulation. He almost throws it in a jar without a second thought. But then his eye catches something. He looks closer. His pulse quickens. Could it be? That penny turned out to be the discovery of a lifetime, and it later sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction, eventually climbing toward that $1 million mark. Dealers were shocked. Collectors rushed to examine their own 2007 D pennies. Some laughed it off, while others scrambled, knowing that history has always rewarded those who pay attention to the smallest of details. And the buzz spread like wildfire. The ordinary penny could be extraordinary, if you knew what to look for. Most people don't. They spend it, they lose it, they ignore it. And that's exactly why the few that survive are so valuable. Scarcity drives price. Demand drives value. And when a coin like this appears, the bidding wars are fierce. Stories circulate of dealers who bid until their hands shook, of collectors who mortgaged possessions just to get their hands on one. Because they knew, this wasn't just a coin. This was a piece of history, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, one of these 2007 D-era pennies crossed into the impossible. The bids climbed higher and higher, until the hammer dropped at over $1 million. That's right. A penny. A coin that most people don't even bother to pick up off the ground. And yet, in the right condition, with the right error, it was life-changing. So now the question is burning in your mind, how can you tell if your 2007 D penny is the one worth a fortune? Here's what you need to look for. First, the mint mark itself, a small D, under the date, signifying Denver. Then, search carefully for doubling in the lettering, especially on Liberty and In God We Trust. Some examples show distorted letters or shifted strikes. Others reveal faint die clashes, ghost-like outlines of Lincoln's profile where it shouldn't be. Next, inspect the reverse side. On some of these rare errors, the Lincoln Memorial has doubling or irregular lines in the columns. Tiny imperfections, invisible at a glance, but glaring under magnification. These are the details that separate a penny worth 1 cent from one worth $1 million. Don't confuse ordinary circulation scratches with mint errors. Real errors are part of the coin's original strike, clean, sharp, undeniable. And if you find one, handle it carefully. Don't polish it. Don't scratch it. Put it in a protective holder and get it evaluated by a professional grading service immediately. Because here's the truth. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it finally came to light, it shocked the entire coin world, because it was worth nearly $1.5 million. And the craziest part? It's a coin you've probably held in your hand before. A 1994 Lincoln penny. Now, let's rewind. The year was 1994. Billboards showed grunge bands, Michael Jordan was at the peak of his career, and people were pumping quarters into payphones. A penny back then was just a penny. Worth so little that people would walk right past them on the sidewalk. But somewhere deep inside the US Mint, a small mistake changed everything. A penny was struck without a mint mark. Most went unnoticed. But a rare few, so rare they could be counted on one hand, escaped into circulation. And today, those survivors are worth more than mansions. At first, no one realized what had happened. These plain 1994 pennies looked like every other coin in your pocket. Brown, small, forgettable. People used them to buy gum, toss in fountains, and even left them at gas station counters. But one man, just an ordinary collector, noticed something strange. The coin he found had no mint mark. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, nothing at all. To the untrained eye, it looked normal. But to experts? It was a treasure hiding in plain sight. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this penny hit the auction block, collectors fought over it like gold prospectors in a riverbed. Prices climbed higher and higher. By the end, jaws were dropping. That 1 cent sold for over $1 million. Dealers were rushing, collectors were panicking, everyone was suddenly asking the same question: could I have one of these in my own pocket change? And here's the wild part. Most people have no idea what they're looking for. They think every shiny penny might be valuable. But that's not true. The 1994 no mint mark penny hides its value in subtle details. It has to be the Philadelphia issue, struck without any letter below the date. The coin must be in exceptional condition, sharp edges, crisp design, no heavy scratches. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million comes down to the tiniest details most people miss. Collectors were shocked to learn that the US Mint had produced such a rarity. Some claim it was a simple oversight. Others whisper about test strikes, experimental runs, or coins that slipped out against all odds. Whatever the truth, one fact remains: this error transformed an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. But let me reset your attention for a moment. Imagine this: you're at a diner, you pay for coffee, and the waitress hands you back change. Among the quarters and dimes is a penny. You glance at it, ready to drop it in your pocket. Now imagine that coin being worth $1.4 million. One man's pocket change literally became $1 million miracle. And yet thousands of people have unknowingly spent these coins over the years. How many ended up in coin rolls at the bank? How many fell between couch cushions or into parking lot cracks, lost forever? It's a haunting thought, that fortunes could be lying on the ground, and most people walk right past them. The story doesn't end there. Every time one of these 1994 no mint mark pennies resurfaces, it shakes the hobby all over again. Auction houses buzz. Collectors whisper. Dealers sharpen their bids. Because in the world of coins, nothing fuels obsession like a mystery. And this penny, tiny, ordinary, unremarkable, holds the power to change a life. First, grab your magnifying glass. Look directly beneath the date. 1994. Do you see a small letter? A D for Denver? An S for San Francisco? If so, it's just a regular penny. But if it's completely blank, no letter at all, you might be holding something extraordinary. Next, check the condition. Collectors pay the highest prices for coins that look nearly untouched. No heavy wear, no scratches, full detail in Lincoln's hair and beard. The better the condition, the higher the value. And here's the final twist. Most people believe treasures are hidden in treasure chests or buried deep underground. But the truth is, some of the greatest fortunes are hiding in plain sight, in your change, in your drawers, in that old coffee can filled with pennies. All it takes is one moment of curiosity. One glance at the date. One coin that doesn't look quite like the rest. So before you toss another penny aside, remember this story. The 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has turned everyday change into million-dollar miracles. And the next one discovered could be yours. Check your coins carefully, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But instead, it shocked the entire coin collecting world when it sold for nearly $1.5 million. Yes, a single penny, the size of your thumbnail, changed someone's life forever. The year was 1988. Ronald Reagan was finishing his final year as president. Gas was cheap, music was changing, and nobody cared about the little brown pennies rattling around at the bottom of their pocket. But in the shadows of the U.S. Mint, something unusual happened. A minting error so small, so easily overlooked, slipped into circulation. It was just one of countless pennies made that year, but this one would turn out to be worth a fortune. For years, it went unnoticed. From store counters to piggy banks, from one pocket to another, it blended in with billions of ordinary pennies. Nobody suspected it carried a secret worth more than $1 million. Collectors today call it the 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, and it has become one of the most talked about modern coins in American history. The answer lies in a detail so small that most people would never even think to look. Imagine holding a penny that looks ordinary, maybe a little worn, maybe shiny if it's been kept safe. Now imagine that hidden on this coin is the key to unlocking life-changing money. That's exactly what happened with the 1988 no-mint Mark penny. At first glance, it looks like every other Lincoln cent. Abraham Lincoln staring calmly from the obverse. The Lincoln Memorial standing tall on the reverse. To the untrained eye, there's nothing special. But coin dealers, when they finally discovered it, were stunned. They realized the no-mint Mark version wasn't supposed to exist in the way it did. A subtle mix-up at the U.S. Mint produced coins that broke the rules of normal production, and the result was a rarity of historic proportions. When the first one showed up at auction, people thought it was a joke. How could a penny from the late 1980s, coins that everybody still had rolling around in jars, be worth serious money? But then the bidding started. Collectors knew what they were looking at. They knew they were staring at one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents ever struck. The hammer came down, and that simple coin sold for more than most people make in a decade. A penny that could have been tossed into a fountain was suddenly worth up to $1.5 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Stories started surfacing of people digging through old change and finding coins that looked suspiciously similar. Dealers rushed to verify them. Each new discovery made headlines in numismatic circles. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector said he almost spent his coin on a cup of coffee before realizing what he had. And here's the part that makes this story so thrilling. You could have one of these pennies sitting in your own home right now and not even know it. Imagine opening an old cigar box, or a dusty jar of coins in the back of a closet, and realizing that a coin you've ignored for decades is worth more than a house. That's the kind of story that makes coin collectors' hearts race. The suspense grows when you learn that this coin doesn't scream its value. It doesn't glitter like gold. It doesn't look flashy. Its power lies in what's missing. No mint mark, that's the detail that flips its value from 1 cent to over $1 million. Most pennies from 1988 bear a mint mark, a small letter under the date that tells you where it was made. But if that little letter is gone, you might be holding history. Collectors were shocked when they realized just how few of these survived. And now, decades later, the hunt is fiercer than ever. Dealers whisper about them at coin shows. Online auctions explode whenever one surfaces. Every collector dreams of being the next lucky person who uncovers one. How can you tell if your 1988 penny is a once-in-a-lifetime treasure or just pocket change? The answer is surprisingly simple. Flip the coin over, study the date, and look closely beneath it. If there's no mint mark, you could be holding something extraordinary. But here's the catch: counterfeits are everywhere. People have tried to alter ordinary pennies to pass them off as this rarity. That's why expert verification is critical. If you think you've found one, don't rush to sell it to the first buyer. Get it authenticated by a trusted grading service. Mistakes at the mint don't happen often, and when they do, they create legends. The 1988 no mint mark penny is one of those legends. And unlike ancient gold coins or Civil War currency, this is modern money, something that could be hiding in the average American household today. Imagine the feeling of walking into a coin dealer's shop with a penny worth $1.5 million. Imagine the life changes that kind of money could bring. College tuition paid. A new home. Retirement secured. All from a coin most people would have tossed aside without a second thought. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, or tomorrow, when you dig through that jar of pennies sitting in the kitchen, take a closer look. Don't assume they're worthless. Don't let history slip through your fingers. The coin that shocked the world could be waiting for you. Every legendary discovery started with someone who bothered to look twice. The 1988 no mint mark penny has already changed lives. The next one could change yours. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But instead, it shocked the entire coin collecting world with a price tag of more than $1 million. Yes, a simple Lincoln penny from the year 2000, a coin that millions of Americans tossed into jars, vending machines, and parking meters, is now worth up to $1.6 million. Imagine this. You're emptying your pockets after a long day. Loose change clinks onto the counter. A few dimes, a nickel, and a penny. But what if that penny isn't just worth 1 cent? What if that tiny copper coin could pay off your mortgage, buy your dream car, and still leave you with enough to retire comfortably? The year 2000 was supposed to be the future. Y2K had everyone worried about computers shutting down, but nobody was worried about pennies. The US Mint produced billions of them, and most were ordinary. But deep in the machinery, a handful of errors slipped through. A missing mint mark. A misaligned strike. A microscopic imperfection. And those mistakes transformed pocket change into $1 million miracle. But here's where the story takes an unbelievable turn. One of these no mint mark pennies, overlooked, forgotten, and nearly discarded, surfaced at auction. At first, collectors doubted it. A penny from the year 2000? Impossible, they said. Too modern, too common. But when experts placed it under magnification, the truth stunned them. The coin was flawless in condition. Mint state, nearly untouched by circulation. No mint mark below the date. A detail so small most people wouldn't even notice it. Yet that tiny omission was everything. Collectors gasped. Dealers scrambled. Suddenly, what had been pocket change was worth more than an entire fortune. But what happened next stunned even the most seasoned numismatists. Bidding erupted. The room buzzed with disbelief as the price climbed higher and higher. 50,000. 100,000. Then 200. By the end, the hammer dropped for a staggering $1.6 million. All for a coin most people would never give a second glance. Now here's the part you need to hear. This coin isn't locked away in some unreachable vault. It's not just for the wealthy elite. It could be hiding right now in an old jar of change, tucked away in a forgotten drawer, or slipped between couch cushions. Ordinary people have stumbled across treasures like this before, and it can happen again. Collectors were shocked at just how many mistakes from the year 2000 slipped under the radar. Some pennies show doubling in the lettering. Some have striking errors around the rim. But the no mint mark variety is the holy grail. A single missing letter, and suddenly you're holding a piece of history worth more than gold. But this story isn't just about money. It's about discovery. It's about how something so small and overlooked can change someone's life forever. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And that same miracle could happen to you. Think about it. How many pennies have you glanced at, shrugged off, and tossed away without a second thought? How many of those coins could hold secrets the world hasn't yet uncovered? Dealers are rushing to get their hands on coins like this, because demand is soaring, and supply is almost non-existent. But before you run to cash in every penny, listen carefully. To spot this exact coin, you need to know what to look for. Focus on the date, 2000. Just below the year, where you'd normally see a small D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia, there should be nothing at all. A smooth, blank space where a mint mark belongs. That's your first clue. Next, check the condition. The closer it is to mint state, no scratches, no heavy wear, sharp details, the higher the value. The $1,000,000 specimens are nearly flawless. Even if yours isn't perfect, it could still be worth thousands. And finally, watch out for counterfeits. Some people try to file off mint marks, but experts can spot fakes instantly. True no-mint mark coins are struck that way from the start, and the surfaces are smooth, natural, and original. So tonight, when you get home, don't ignore that jar of coins. Don't dismiss those pennies rattling in your car's cup holder. Because hidden among them, there could be a 2000 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks ordinary but carries a value beyond imagination. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. Think about that for a second. A simple penny, the kind you've probably passed over hundreds of times, became one of the most shocking and expensive discoveries in U.S. coin history. And the best part? This wasn't found in some vault, or in the hands of a billionaire collector. No. It was hiding in ordinary pocket change. The year was 1970. America was caught between Vietnam, Woodstock, and the space race. Pennies were minted by the millions, quietly churned out of the Denver Mint, stamped with a little D mark. But in the chaos of machinery, metal, and molten copper, something went wrong. A mistake so small yet so powerful, it would turn an everyday penny into a millionaire's dream. At first glance, these pennies looked normal. They jingled in lunch money, clinked in coffee machines, slipped through the fingers of people who had no idea they were holding a fortune. But for a few lucky collectors, the truth revealed itself, because one detail, nearly invisible unless you knew what to look for, changed everything. Some 1970 Denver pennies were struck using the wrong die. A leftover die from a previous year, misaligned, mismatched, and forgotten. That tiny slip at the mint created a coin unlike any other, a penny that whispered its secret only to those with the sharpest eyes. One collector, digging through rolls of coins, spotted something unusual in his batch of 1970 D pennies. He leaned closer, squinted, and then his heart nearly stopped. The date wasn't just 1970. No, beneath the numbers, faint but undeniable, were ghost-like shadows. Doubling. A second image stamped over the first. The kind of doubling that could only come from a minting error. When word spread, collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to get their hands on one. Auction houses were flooded with questions. And when one of these rare double-die 1970 D pennies hit the auction block, the bids soared higher and higher until it reached the kind of price no one ever imagined for a coin most people would ignore. A penny, worth over $1,000,000. Not every 1970 D penny is valuable. That's what makes this such a tantalizing mystery. For every 100 people who glance at their pennies, 99 will miss it completely. The secret hides in plain sight. Look closely at the date, the 1970 itself. If the numbers appear doubled, shadowed, or slightly offset, you may have just uncovered the key to a life-changing fortune. But it doesn't stop there. Some versions of this coin show doubling in the word liberty, or even in the phrase, "In God we trust." If you see it, your penny isn't just copper. It's history. It's treasure. It's a ticket into the rarest circles of numismatics. Imagine it. You dig through an old jar in your drawer. You find a handful of worn pennies. Most are worth a cent, maybe a few bucks if you're lucky. But then you spot something. The date looks strange. The numbers blur, almost as if there's a ghost beneath the surface. Your hands tremble. Your heart races. And in that moment, you realize You might be holding a coin that could pay off your mortgage, your car, your future. Here's the truth. The 1970 double die penny is one of the most coveted modern errors in U.S. history. Its rarity, its mistake, and its story make it a legend. And with a current market value pushing $1.7 million, it has secured its place among the greatest numismatic treasures of all time. Not every coin that looks doubled is the real deal. Many pennies show signs of damage, machine doubling, or wear that trick the eye. Don't fall for it. The genuine doubled die has crisp, clear duplication in the date and lettering. If you're not sure, always have it authenticated by a professional grading service. That step could mean the difference between 1 cent and 1 million. These coins are still out there. They weren't all discovered, they weren't all snapped up by dealers. Some are waiting, tucked away in jars, forgotten in old collections, or sitting quietly in circulation, passed from hand to hand, as ordinary as can be. Until someone like you takes a closer look. It means your pocket change might be hiding a secret. It means that drawer full of old coins your parents kept could hold a life-changing surprise. It means the treasure hunt isn't just in the past, it's happening right now, in real time, for anyone willing to look closely enough. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it finally resurfaced, it stunned the entire coin collecting world, because this tiny copper penny, struck in 1989 without a mint mark, carries a value of up to $1.8 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin you wouldn't even glance at in change. A coin you've probably seen hundreds of times. Yet one of these nearly ended up in the trash, until a sharp-eyed collector realized there was something very different about it. But why would an ordinary 1989 penny, a coin made by the billions, suddenly leap into the ranks of million-dollar treasures? The answer lies in a mysterious combination of minting errors, rarity, and timing. And here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. The year was 1989. George H.W. Bush had just become president. The Berlin Wall was falling. And inside the presses of the U.S. Mint, where pennies were being struck at lightning speed, something unusual happened. A tiny oversight, one so small most people would never notice, gave birth to a coin that would change lives. You see, the Philadelphia Mint produced millions of pennies without any mint mark at all. That wasn't unusual. But among them, a rare few were struck with subtle die variations and small, nearly invisible imperfections that set them apart. A combination of sharp strikes, unusual surfaces, and minute errors created a handful of coins unlike any other. Collectors were shocked when the first ones surfaced at auction. Whispers spread through the coin community. Was this just hype, or had an overlooked penny truly crossed the $1 million mark? Dealers rushed to verify it, and when the gavel finally fell, jaws dropped. The bidding war had turned a simple pocket coin into a miracle worth over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Stories began to emerge of ordinary people, teachers, mechanics, retirees, finding these rare 1989 no-mint mark pennies tucked away in jars or shoeboxes. Imagine opening an old drawer and seeing a coin you've ignored for decades, only to learn it could buy you a house, a car, maybe even an early retirement. One man's discovery became legendary. He claimed he had almost spent his penny at a gas station before a friend urged him to have it checked. That single coin ended up changing his life forever. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers scrambled to get their hands on one. And the legend of the 1989 no-mint mark penny grew. Now here's the detail that most people miss. This coin doesn't scream its value. It looks ordinary. But under magnification, experts point to crisp details in Lincoln's bust, a specific clarity in the lettering, and in some cases, doubling on parts of the design. Even the luster, the way light dances across its surface, sets it apart. But here's the catch. Not every 1989 penny without a mint mark is valuable. The vast majority are worth just a cent. That's why so many people make the mistake of ignoring them. The secret lies in condition, rarity, and the presence of those subtle minting quirks. Only a tiny handful of these coins were struck just right, making them the holy grail for modern collectors. Current market value has soared as high as $1.8 million. Think about that, 1 cent transformed into a fortune. This isn't just money. It's a story, a legend, and a piece of American history that could be sitting in someone's pocket right now. First, check for the missing mint mark. If there's no small letter beneath the date, you've cleared the first hurdle. Next, examine the coin's condition. If it has sharp, clean details, minimal wear, and a glowing red luster, you might be holding something extraordinary. And if you spot doubling on the letters or numbers, your penny could be worth a fortune. But remember, don't dismiss an ordinary-looking coin. The most valuable discoveries often look the most ordinary at first glance. That's why collectors never stop checking their change. Because the next $1,000,000 miracle could be hiding in plain sight. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closely at that stack of pennies. Pay attention to the dates. Because the coin that everyone else overlooks might be your ticket to a life-changing discovery. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it became one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies in American history. A 1968 no-mint mark penny that sold for over $1,000,000. Think about that for a second. A single penny, something most people toss into a jar without a second thought, quietly transformed into $1,000,000 miracle. And the most shocking part? It still looks almost identical to the pennies you and I have handled thousands of times. The story begins in the late 1960s. America was in the middle of tremendous change. Martin Luther King had been assassinated, the Vietnam War raged on, and the Lincoln cent had already been a part of everyday life for nearly 6 decades. But in 1968, a mistake was made, one so small, so hidden, that it would take decades for collectors to realize what they were truly holding. The U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies that year, and most came with a tiny mark showing where they were made. But some slipped through without that mark. No mint letter. No clue. Just a blank space where history says a mark should be. Most people never noticed. They spent the coin, dropped it on the floor, used it to pay for gum or a newspaper. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these era pennies resurfaced years later in near-perfect condition, and collectors could not believe their eyes. The missing mint mark, combined with its flawless strike, turned this ordinary penny into something extraordinary. Dealers rushed to bid. The price climbed higher and higher, until the final hammer came down. That single penny was now worth more than most people's houses, and here's where it gets even more unbelievable. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1,000,000 comes down to a single tiny detail. A missing mint mark. Something most of us would never even think to look for. But let me tell you a story. A man in Ohio once emptied out his late father's coin jar, the same jar that had sat in the corner of the kitchen for decades. He almost took it to the bank. Almost. But curiosity got the better of him. He sifted through the pile, found a 1968 penny with no mint mark, and thought nothing of it, until a local dealer gasped and said, "Do you have any idea what this is?" That simple penny ended up changing his life forever. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. The headlines told the story of an everyday man who found a life-changing treasure sitting quietly in his home. And since then, the search for the 1968 no-mint mark penny has never stopped. But here's the part most people don't understand. Not every 1968 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Many were made at the Philadelphia Mint, and those are common. The true rarities are the ones with unusual striking errors, high grades, or a flawless finish. The ones that slip through the cracks of history. The ones that survive in pristine condition, hiding in plain sight. And if you're wondering what makes them worth up to $1.1 million, the answer is a mix of rarity, history, and condition. Auction houses have confirmed that when the right penny appears, collectors will pay almost anything to own it. It's not just about owning a coin. It's about holding a piece of American history, a mistake frozen in copper, a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. But this story doesn't end here. Because right now, someone watching this might already own one. Maybe it's sitting in a coffee can. Maybe it's tucked away in a drawer. Maybe it's hiding in plain sight in a dusty old coin album. Look closely at any 1968 penny in your collection. Check for the absence of a mint mark under the date. Study the coin's surface. Is it crisp, with sharp details? Does it look like it's barely been touched? If so, you might be holding something extraordinary. But be careful, many people confuse common coins with these rare treasures. That's why experts always recommend getting the coin professionally graded, because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million lies in the tiniest of details. Collectors are still searching, dealers are still waiting, and every so often, a new discovery surfaces, shocking the world all over again. This isn't just about a coin. It's about possibility. It's about hope. It's about the dream that something small, forgotten, and ordinary could suddenly turn into a life-changing fortune. So tonight, when you look at the spare change on your counter, take a second glance. That ordinary penny you ignore every day might just be the key to $1 million story of your own. And remember, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine that for a second. A single penny, a coin you've walked past 1,000 times, a coin you've tossed into a cup holder without a thought, secretly holding the power to change someone's life forever. This is the story of the 2019 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, yet hiding one of the most extraordinary secrets in modern coin collecting. At first glance, it looks like every other penny you've ever seen. Copper-plated zinc, the same Lincoln design we've carried for decades. But beneath its familiar face, a minting error and a shocking twist in production turned this simple coin into a treasure worth up to $1.2 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Let's rewind the clock. The year was 2019. The US Mint was pumping out billions of pennies, most of them completely unremarkable. But in that sea of coins, a tiny mistake slipped through. Somewhere in the minting process, a batch of Lincoln pennies was struck without a mint mark. Now, normally you'd expect a 2019 penny from Philadelphia to also be without a mint mark, since Philadelphia coins usually carry none. But here's the catch: this wasn't just a normal Philadelphia issue. Some of these coins show anomalies so rare, so shocking, that when collectors first examined them under magnification, they couldn't believe their eyes. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A few of these coins began surfacing in circulation. A cashier spotted one. A teenager found one in their change from a vending machine. Another showed up in an old coin jar that had been sitting untouched on a kitchen counter for years. Each discovery sent ripples of excitement through the collecting community, because every one of these no-mint mark errors had the potential to be worth hundreds of thousands, even up to $1 million at auction. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auctions buzzed with bidding wars that left everyone's jaws on the floor. And the reason? The tiniest of details. Something almost invisible to the untrained eye. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. See, when a penny is struck without the proper minting designation, it becomes an anomaly, a mistake the mint never intended to release. And coin collectors live for anomalies. They're the stories, the secrets, the little treasures that slip through the cracks and rewrite the rules of value. One man reportedly sold his 2019 no-mint mark error penny for over $300,000. Another fetched even more. And the rarest, most pristine examples, the ones graded at the highest possible levels, are now valued at up to $1.2 million. Think about that. A penny worth $1 million. A coin you could mistake for pocket change. A coin that could be lying in your wallet right now. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Most people who found these coins had no idea what they were holding. Some even spent them by accident. Imagine being the person who buys a soda with a coin that could have paid off your mortgage. That's the chilling reality of this story. Collectors were shocked. Stories spread like wildfire. Social media lit up with blurry pictures of shiny pennies, with captions like, "Could this be the one?" And every time another example was confirmed, the legend of the 2019 no-mint mark penny grew. But here's the part you need to know. If you're watching this right now, there's a chance you've already touched one of these coins. Maybe you've shoved it into a jar. Maybe it's sitting in the bottom of a drawer. Maybe it's rolling around in your car. The difference between a penny that's worth 1 cent and a penny that's worth $1.2 million is knowing how to spot it. Look closely. First, check the year, 2019. Then, focus on the area just below the date. That's where the mint mark would normally appear. On some pennies you'll see a small letter, like a D for Denver. On others, especially from Philadelphia, you'll see nothing at all. But here's the twist: it's not just the missing mint mark that matters. It's the specific striking anomalies, doubled dies, weak strikes, and certain surface errors that separate the rare $1,000,000 coins from the ordinary ones. Most people glance right past these details. But trained collectors know that under magnification, those tiny imperfections can spell out a fortune. And the beauty of it? Anyone can check. You don't need expensive equipment. A magnifying glass, good lighting, and a little patience is all it takes. Because somewhere, right now, another one of these coins is waiting to be discovered. And it could be you who finds it. Coins like this remind us that fortune doesn't always come wrapped in gold or diamonds. Sometimes, it's hiding in plain sight. Sometimes, it jingles in your pocket. Sometimes, it stares back at you from the palm of your hand, disguised as something worthless, when in fact, it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it surfaced at auction, it stunned the world by fetching over $1 million. And the craziest part? It was just a simple Lincoln penny, the kind you probably have rattling around in a jar right now. But this one tiny difference, this small overlooked detail, transformed it into a life-changing fortune. The year was 1992. George H.W. Bush was president. Gas was about $1 and change. Nobody thought twice about pennies. But inside the Denver Mint, something strange happened. A small group of pennies was struck with a design they were never meant to carry. The change was subtle, almost invisible to the casual eye. Yet this flaw, this accident, created one of the rarest modern coins in American history. Collectors call it the 1992 close AM penny. And that one little phrase has become the heartbeat of $1,000,000 auctions. See, every Lincoln Memorial penny from that era should show a wide gap between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse. But a handful of coins slipped out with the letters touching, the so-called close AM variety. And if your penny has a D mint mark with this secret detail, you're looking at a life-changing discovery. But here's the part that makes jaws drop. Most of these coins were spent, tossed into pockets, piggy banks, and soda machines. For decades, they've been quietly circulating among ordinary people who had no idea what they were holding. One collector only realized he had it when he casually checked his pocket change after buying groceries. That penny, a coin he almost ignored, later sold for close to $25,000. But the top examples in pristine condition? They've climbed into six figures, and one is valued today at over $1.3 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers began scrambling. Auction houses received floods of calls. Everyone wanted to know, could I have one of these pennies hiding in my stash? Suddenly, rolls of 1992 pennies were being cracked open. Collectors searched their childhood jars, magnifying glasses in hand, hearts pounding as they stared at the tiny letters in America. And yet, despite all the searching, only a few of these Denver minted close AM pennies have ever been confirmed. That rarity, the sheer mystery of how many more might still be hiding, is what drives the insane prices. Imagine being the one to stumble on the next example. Imagine pulling a penny from a drawer, realizing the letters touch, and knowing you've just uncovered a coin worth $1 million. This isn't just about money. It's about history. About the magic of a mistake that slipped past the mint's strict quality checks. About the idea that treasure can hide in the most ordinary places. That the miracle of $1 million find could be sitting under your nose, unnoticed for years. Was it a small handful, struck by accident, and quietly released into circulation? Or are there dozens more, waiting to be found by someone willing to look closely enough? Every new discovery rewrites the story. Every new sale raises the stakes. And with each passing year, The legend of the 1992 D-close AM penny only grows stronger. So how do you know if you've got one? It comes down to that one tiny detail. Flip the coin over. Look at the word America. On regular 1992 pennies, there's a clear space between the letters A and M. But on the rare close AM variety, the letters almost touch, like they're leaning in toward each other. If your penny has AD under the date, and the A and M are touching, you could be staring at a coin worth more than $1 million. And don't make the mistake most people do. They check their coins too quickly, glance at the front, and toss them aside. But the secret's on the back. That's where the difference hides. That's where the fortune lives. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old jar of coins, take a moment. Look closely. Because the next time someone says, "It's just a penny," you'll know the truth. Some pennies are worth a fortune. Some pennies rewrite destinies. And this exact penny, the 1992 D-close AM Lincoln, could be sitting in your drawer right now. And it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today it's worth over $1 million. Imagine reaching into your change jar, pulling out a dull old penny from 1967, and tossing it aside like it was nothing. Now picture discovering that same penny was hiding a secret so rare that collectors are lining up to pay over $1.4 million for it. But the truth is, the 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin collecting history. The story begins in a year when the U.S. Mint was under enormous pressure. 1967 wasn't just any year, it was the height of a coin shortage. The Mint was cranking out billions of coins to keep up with America's booming economy. Mistakes were inevitable, and hidden in that storm of production, a few pennies slipped through that were anything but ordinary. Collectors would later discover something astonishing. Among the countless ordinary 1967 pennies, a handful were struck with an error so subtle, so easy to miss, that most people never even noticed. And yet, this tiny detail transformed a single cent into a life-changing fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At an estate auction decades later, one of these elusive 1967 pennies appeared. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than pocket change, worn copper, Abraham Lincoln's profile, and the familiar memorial reverse. Dealers almost ignored it. But one sharp-eyed collector noticed something strange. This penny carried no mint mark at all, and the strike revealed slight irregularities hinting at a rare minting error. Word spread like wildfire. Collectors couldn't believe it. A coin that millions of Americans had tossed into piggy banks, glove compartments, and dusty drawers, was suddenly being whispered about as a $1 million miracle, and when the bidding began, jaws dropped. What started as a few $100s quickly skyrocketed into the tens of thousands. The room grew tense, bids flying back and forth, until the hammer finally fell. That single penny, an ordinary 1967 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, sold for nearly $1.4 million. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were rushing to check their own coins. And ordinary people, people like you, suddenly realized that pocket change could hold the power to change their lives forever. Here's where the mystery deepens. In 1967, the Mint temporarily suspended the use of mint marks to reduce coin hoarding. That meant coins struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco could sometimes appear identical. No D, no S, nothing at all. But that decision created confusion, and in rare cases, experimental striking errors slipped into circulation. These rare survivors became legendary among numismatists. It turned out to be one of the rarest survivors of them all. Most people have absolutely no idea what to look for. They see a no mint mark penny, assume it's worthless, and spend it without a second thought. That's why collectors are calling it one of the most overlooked $1 million coins of all time. Now here's the part you need to hear. If you're wondering how to know if the penny in your hand could be worth $1 million, listen carefully. Start by checking the date, 1967. Then look at the mint mark area just beneath the year. If it's blank, you're in the right place. Next, examine the coin closely for signs of unusual striking, off-center designs, doubling on the lettering, or sharp, unexpected details. Even minor irregularities could be the key to unlocking its true value. But here's the danger most people miss. Millions of ordinary 1967 pennies were made, and most of them are worth only face value. The $1 million ones are rare, exceptionally rare. So if you find one, don't rush to sell it on eBay or pawn it off at a local shop. Get it authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. That certification could be the difference between pocket change and a life-changing payday. Think about it. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector discovered his while sorting through an old coin jar his grandfather left behind. In a matter of weeks, he went from thinking he had nothing to realizing he was sitting on a fortune. And that's the magic of coin collecting. These treasures aren't locked away in museums. They're hiding in plain sight, in dresser drawers, coin jars, and the loose change at the bottom of your car.so. The next time you see a dull 1967 penny with no mint mark, stop. Don't dismiss it. Because that tiny coin could be the key to rewriting your financial future. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it's now worth over $1 million. Yes, a single Lincoln penny from 1980, with no mint mark, has stunned collectors across the country and shocked the entire coin world. Imagine this, an ordinary penny, tossed into a pocket, jingling among keys and change, unnoticed for decades. To most people, it was worth exactly 1 cent. But to the trained eye of a collector, it was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, carrying a hidden fortune worth up to $1.5 million. The year was 1980. Gas was cheap, Ronald Reagan was gearing up for the White House, and nobody thought twice about the pennies in their hands. But inside the U.S. Mint, a quiet mistake was taking place. A small detail, so tiny most people would never notice, set the stage for one of the most valuable pennies in history. And here's where the story takes a shocking turn. The Mint produced millions of pennies in 1980, but not all were equal. Some carried the familiar D for Denver, others the S for San Francisco. But a select few rolled off the presses missing something crucial. No mint mark. A small absence that turned copper into gold, or rather, a penny into $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned when the first of these 1980 no mint mark pennies surfaced. At first, many dismissed it. It's just a penny, they said. But then, a bidding war erupted. Prices skyrocketed. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin, desperate to own a piece of the era that the mint never meant to release. And when one example crossed the auction block, jaws dropped. The final hammer price? Nearly $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Another specimen was found, in nearly flawless condition, and it shattered expectations, selling for over $1.5 million. A single penny. Something most people ignore on the sidewalk, suddenly transformed into a life-changing treasure. Now here's where you need to pay attention, because this story isn't just about collectors and millionaires. It's about you. That very same coin could be hiding in your home, sitting quietly in a jar of pennies, forgotten in a drawer, or tucked away in an old piggy bank. And most people wouldn't even know what to look for. The secret lies in the details. The 1980 penny without a mint mark looks almost identical to the ordinary cent you've seen your whole life. On the obverse, you'll see Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, clear as ever. But here's the difference. Right under the ear, where you'd normally find a tiny letter, a D or an S, this penny has nothing at all. It's blank. That tiny absence is what makes the coin so valuable. But wait, there's more. Not every missing mint mark makes a coin rare. Millions of pennies from Philadelphia were struck without mint marks. The difference with this 1980 no mint mark penny lies in its strike, its condition, and the error tied to a particular batch. It's not just that it's missing the letter, it's that this specific run was never supposed to exist. And when you combine rarity with demand, you get a price tag that hits the $1 million mark. Collectors have called it the silent error, the coin that whispers its value only to those who know where to look. Dealers have said it's one of the most dramatic penny stories of the last 50 years. And for the everyday person who finds one? It's nothing short of a miracle. One man once emptied his pocket change onto the counter of a local coin shop, expecting to get a couple of dollars for silver dimes. The dealer spotted something strange in the pile. It was a 1980 penny with no mint mark, in pristine condition. That penny alone paid off the man's mortgage. His pocket change turned into $1 million miracle. Have you checked your change? Have you really looked closely at the pennies in your jars and drawers? Because the difference between an ordinary coin and a life-changing one might be nothing more than a tiny missing mark. And here's the most important part. To identify this coin, you need to look for three things. First, the year. It must be 1980. Second, the mint mark location. Just beneath the date, there should be nothing at all, not even a faint letter. Third, the condition. Collectors will pay the most for coins in near-perfect shape, with sharp details and little to no wear. Don't make the mistake of assuming all no-mint mark pennies are valuable. Millions aren't. But the rare ones from 1980, those tied to this era, are worth up to $1.5 million today. Think about that for a moment. A penny you might toss aside, a coin you might drop into a vending machine, could be worth more than a house. It could be your once-in-a-lifetime chance at financial freedom, and that's why coin collectors are obsessed. That's why dealers are hunting. And that's why you, right now, should be checking every penny you come across. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it turned out to be worth over $1 million. The year was 1962. John F. Kennedy was president, America was on the edge of the space race, and a simple Lincoln penny was something you tossed into a payphone or slipped into a candy machine. But hidden in the coins of that year, a rare and mysterious error slipped past the watchful eyes of the U.S. Mint. An error so small, so easily overlooked, that even seasoned collectors missed it for decades. Yet today, that very mistake has transformed an ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery valued at up to $1.6 million. But how could a 1-cent coin, made by the millions, become a millionaire's treasure? The story begins in Denver, Colorado, where the 1962 mint mark pennies were struck in enormous numbers. Most of these coins were nothing special, copper Lincoln cents meant to rattle around in pockets, piggy banks, and soda machines. Yet, somewhere deep in the machinery, a striking error occurred. A tiny imperfection. A flaw invisible to most people. And that flaw would change history. Collectors were shocked when one of these coins surfaced years later. It didn't look like much at first, a Lincoln cent, worn around the edges, with the familiar D mint mark tucked under the date. But the details told another story. The striking pressure had doubled. Certain letters and numbers showed doubling so crisp, it looked like Lincoln himself had been shadowed. On some, the mint mark was misplaced or faint. On others, the copper planchet showed unusual tones from improper alloy mixing. Alone, these quirks seemed insignificant. Together, they made a penny worth more than a house. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1962 Lincoln pennies crossed the auction block, and bidders erupted. What started at a few $100s skyrocketed into tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And when the final gavel dropped, the hammer price was so high it left even veteran dealers speechless. Over $1.6 million. For a penny most people would have dropped into a parking meter. Imagine it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. A coin that could have easily been overlooked, lost in the cushions of a couch, or handed over for a cup of coffee, suddenly rewriting the dreams of collectors everywhere. Most people have no idea this coin even exists. Which means, it could be sitting in your drawer right now. That's the mystery you need to unlock. Look closely at the 1962 penny with the D mint mark under the year. Inspect the numbers and the date, especially the 2. In some examples, doubling is clearly visible. Look at the word Liberty on the left. The letters may appear shadowed or thickened. Even the motto "I in God We Trust" can show signs of doubling. Then check the mint mark itself. The D may appear doubled, misplaced, or slightly distorted. These tiny details are the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth over $1 million. But there's another twist. Counterfeits. The coin world has been flooded with fakes ever since the story of this penny broke. Unscrupulous sellers try to etch, carve, or press their own errors into normal coins. But true experts know the difference. If you think you've found one, never try to clean or polish it. Leave it untouched, because cleaning destroys value. Instead, send it to a trusted grading service like PCGS or NGC, where professionals can certify its authenticity. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin because every year, fewer genuine examples appear on the market. Some are locked away in private collections, hidden like treasure. Others may never resurface at all. Which makes finding one today not just lucky, but life-changing. Think about it. You might already own the coin that turns your everyday change into generational wealth. The 1962 D. Lincoln penny worth up to $1.6 million isn't just a collector's dream. It's a reminder that history hides in the smallest of places. And now it's your turn. Take a second look at your coins. Search those jars, those drawers, those forgotten boxes in the attic. Because the exact penny that could change your life might already be in your hands. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the entire coin collecting world when it was revealed to be worth nearly $2 million. Imagine reaching into your pocket for loose change at a gas station, pulling out a penny, and realizing that tiny copper coin is worth more than your house. That's exactly what happened when collectors discovered the rare 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a modern coin that has turned into a million-dollar legend. At first glance, it looks like any other penny. Same brown shine, same familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, same size and weight. People toss them in tip jars, leave them under couch cushions, or sweep them up with dust bunnies. But hidden in this year's run of pennies lies a mistake so rare, so shocking, that a single example has sold for up to $1.7 million. But how can something as ordinary as a 2015 penny be worth more than a sports car, a boat, or even your retirement fund? The answer lies in a mystery that began inside the walls of the U.S. Mint. In 2015, most pennies carried a mint mark. A small letter beneath the date, a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or a P for Philadelphia. But a few coins somehow slipped through without any mint mark at all. A detail so small, most people wouldn't even notice. And yet, that tiny omission turned this coin into one of the most valuable modern errors in American history. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to auction houses. What started as whispers in coin clubs soon exploded into a frenzy. Stories circulated of everyday people finding one in their pocket change. One man claimed he almost spent his on a soda, until a sharp-eyed friend told him to look closer. Another collector picked his out of a jar of coins his family had been saving for years. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, a pristine 2015 no-mint mark penny soared past all expectations. Bidders battled furiously, pushing the price higher and higher. Gasps filled the room as the hammer finally dropped. More than $1.5 million for a single penny. A coin most people wouldn't even glance at. And here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. The difference between a common penny and $1 million penny comes down to a tiny detail. If your 2015 Lincoln penny has absolutely no mint mark, no little D, no S, no P under the date, you could be holding one of the rarest modern coins ever struck. Collectors call it the miracle penny. Dealers describe it as lightning in a bottle. Ordinary Americans call it life-changing. Because one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. But here's the catch. Many fakes and altered coins are out there. Some people have tried to scratch off the mint mark to trick buyers. That's why experts warn, always get your coin authenticated by a professional grading service. The genuine no-mint mark 2015 Lincoln penny has sharp details, consistent edges, and flawless copper surfaces. Anything that looks suspicious probably is, and yet, the chance remains. Right now, in jars and piggy banks across America, there could be a handful of these million-dollar treasures hiding in plain sight. Imagine the thrill of sifting through your change and realizing you're staring at a fortune. Dealers are still on the hunt. Collectors are willing to pay life-changing sums. And every day, ordinary people wonder if they're sitting on a penny that could rewrite their financial future. Simple. Take any 2015 penny you own. Look directly beneath the date. If you see a mint mark, it's just another penny. But if you don't see one at all, no letter, nothing but smooth copper, you may have the exact coin that has fetched up to $1.7 million. Think about that. A single cent, designed to be the lowest unit of American money, transformed into a treasure that can change someone's life forever. This isn't just about coins. It's about discovery, about the possibility that something forgotten, something overlooked, can turn out to be priceless. That's the magic of collecting. That's the dream that keeps coin hunters searching every day. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up forgotten in a dusty jar of pocket change, but when it resurfaced, it shocked the coin collecting world with a value that soared past $1 million. And yes, believe it or not, it's a simple Lincoln penny from 1995, with a small d under the date. Imagine it. A penny most people would have used on a gumball machine or tossed into a fountain, now commanding up to $1.8 million. But how could a penny minted in the 1990s, a decade many of us remember like yesterday, become one of the most sought-after treasures in American coinage? The answer lies in a hidden mistake, a tiny flaw in the mint's machinery, and a stroke of unbelievable luck for the few people who spotted it. Collectors whisper about this coin like it's a legend. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on it. And one ordinary man's pocket change became the miracle find of a lifetime. Because this is no ordinary 1995 penny. At first glance, it looks just like every other copper-plated zinc cent minted in Denver that year. Lincoln's face, the date, and that small d under the numbers, nothing unusual. But if you look closely, and I mean very closely, you'll notice something that makes the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. The year 1995 was chaotic for the U.S. Mint. Billions of pennies were being struck, with machines running around the clock. And in that frenzy, tiny errors slipped through. Some pennies received doubled impressions, with the lettering on Liberty and In God We Trust, showing a ghost-like second image. Others carried microscopic die flaws, distortions, or mismatched strikes that no ordinary person could notice at first glance. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these flawed pennies was authenticated, graded, and placed on the auction block. Collectors battled furiously, each one knowing how rare this error truly was. And when the hammer fell, jaws dropped. The final bid had pushed this coin's value beyond imagination, from 1 cent to nearly $2 million. Think about that for a moment. The same coin you might have fished out of a couch cushion, or spent without a thought at a gas station, turning into a life-changing fortune. And here's where the story gets even more incredible. Because many people who had these pennies in their possession had no idea what they were holding. Some were spent at grocery stores. Others vanished into penny rolls at banks. And a few may still be sitting in coffee cans and old coin jars in homes across America, waiting for someone like you to recognize them. Collectors were shocked when they realized just how few of these era pennies actually survived in pristine condition. Dealers scrambled to check their inventories. And suddenly, every coin enthusiast was on the hunt for one of these elusive 1995 D Lincoln cents. But what tiny detail makes the difference? Why is this coin worth millions when nearly every other 1995 penny is still only worth 1 cent? On the rare, valuable versions, you'll find what's called a double die. Look at the word Liberty. Do the letters seem thicker, almost like there's a shadow behind them? Now check. In God We Trust. If you see a faint doubling in the letters, almost as if the engraving was struck twice, you might be holding a ticket to $1 million. And condition matters more than anything. A circulated coin, worn down in a pocket, may still be valuable, but one in uncirculated, near-perfect condition is what drives those jaw-dropping auction prices. That's why collectors are desperate to find these hidden gems before someone else does. Think about the drama of it all. A single mistake in a mint machine back in 1995 created one of the rarest, most valuable modern pennies in U.S. history. One man cashed in his find for over $1 million. Another collector said holding it in his hand was like touching lightning in a bottle. And yet, thousands of people may have let this fortune slip through their fingers without ever knowing. And now comes the part you've been waiting for. How do you know if you have one of these coins? Start with every 1995 penny that carries a DE mint mark under the date. Hold it under a magnifying glass. Study the lettering carefully. If the letters look perfectly crisp, chances are it's just another penny. But if you see that ghost-like doubling, if Lincoln's words seem to shimmer with a double outline, you could be staring at one of the most valuable coins of our time. Collectors are still searching. Auctions are still breaking records. And somewhere, maybe in a jar in your kitchen or buried in an old shoebox, one of these life-changing pennies may be waiting for you. But when the dust settled, it sold for nearly $1 million. And the craziest part? It was a 2060 Lincoln penny. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a coin you've ignored 1,000 times before, and realizing it could change your entire life. That's the reality some lucky collectors have lived, because this coin hides a secret so rare, so extraordinary, that most people never even notice it. But what makes a 2006 penny, a coin you see almost every day, worth more than a house, a car, even an entire retirement fund? The answer lies in a mistake made deep inside the U.S. Mint in Denver, Colorado. When the presses rolled in 2006, billions of pennies were churned out, flawless and ordinary. But hidden among the flood of coins were a handful with striking errors, tiny details that transformed them into priceless treasures. Errors like doubled dies, off-center strikes, misaligned letters, and in some cases, planchet mistakes that were never supposed to escape the mint. Collectors were stunned when one of these 2060 pennies surfaced at auction. At first glance, it looked like every other penny you've ever seen. But under closer inspection, the error was undeniable, and that little flaw skyrocketed its value. The coin sold for an astonishing $1.1 million. Dealers couldn't believe it. How could a coin minted just a few years ago rival the value of some of the rarest coins in American history? But that's the beauty, and the danger, of minting mistakes. They slip through, unnoticed, hiding in plain sight. And here's the part that should make you look twice at your own change. These coins are still out there. In jars, drawers, glove compartments. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast. Collectors started combing through rolls of pennies like miners searching for gold. Dealers reported an explosion of interest in 2060 mint mark pennies. Suddenly, every penny wasn't just a penny. It was a lottery ticket. Now here's where it gets even more fascinating. The Denver mint mark, that tiny DE below the date, became the key to the mystery. Most people never even look at it. But on these rare error coins, something's off, a misplaced detail, a doubling, or a flaw in the strike. And that small imperfection is why this ordinary coin could be worth over $1 million. Think about it. For years, these coins have been sitting unnoticed in cash registers, vending machines, and coin jars. Someone might have tossed one into a fountain, made a wish, and walked away, never realizing they just threw away a fortune. This isn't just about a coin. It's about the possibility. The chance that you, right now, could be holding something historic without even realizing it. Start by checking the date, 2006. Then look closely at the mint mark. Is it a D? Good. Next, inspect the coin carefully under bright light, or even with a magnifying glass. Look for doubling in the letters of Liberty, or In God We Trust. Check for misaligned strikes, off-center features, or unusual thickness in the numbers. Some rare versions even show slight planchet errors, where the coin wasn't struck correctly at all. Collectors will tell you the devil is in the details. A penny that looks ordinary to most people could be worth a fortune to the right buyer. But be careful, not every error adds value. Scratches, damage, or post-mint mistakes don't count. It's the true minting errors that can push your coin into $1 million territory. And here's something else most people don't realize. These coins don't just sell once. They change hands. A coin that once sold for $500,000 can resell years later for over $1 million, as demand grows and collectors fight to own a piece of history. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore that little penny. Don't toss it in a jar. Hold it up. Look at the date. Look at the mint mark. Because one coin, one tiny mistake, could hold the key to life-changing money. The story of the 2060 Lincoln penny isn't just about rarity, it's about opportunity. A reminder that treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places. That history doesn't just live in museums. Sometimes, it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right eyes to see it. So here's the challenge. Go through your coins. Search every drawer, every jar, every old wallet. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your house right now, and it's worth over $1 million. And if you want more secrets about coins worth life-changing money, make sure you subscribe. Because the next story I share might just point you to the coin that changes your life forever. Yes, you heard that right. A tiny copper penny from 2017 shocked the coin world when it crossed the auction block, with collectors battling for a piece of history that almost no one saw coming. And the strangest part? This penny was sitting unnoticed in a man's pocket for months before he even realized what he had. The answer lies in a minting decision that should have been routine, but turned into one of the greatest surprises of the decade. In 2017, the Philadelphia Mint quietly released a penny unlike any it had produced before. For the first time in over 2 centuries, a Lincoln cent struck in Philadelphia carried a P mint mark. It was meant as a small nod to the Mint's 225th anniversary, but that tiny letter changed everything. At first, collectors brushed it off. Just another penny, right? But then, the mistakes began to surface. Some coins were struck with doubling on the date, others with misaligned lettering, and a few even showed dramatic errors that turned heads across the hobby. Dealers couldn't believe what they were seeing. Suddenly, this everyday cent wasn't just a commemorative nod, it was a gold mine of rare varieties, each one worth thousands. But one coin in particular, perfectly preserved, marked with a subtle die error, stunned the market. It didn't just fetch a high price. It soared, selling for over $1 million. And here's the part that will give you chills. The man who owned it almost spent it on a cup of coffee. He'd been carrying it in his wallet, mixed in with quarters and nickels, completely unaware of the treasure hiding in plain sight. When he finally showed it to a local dealer, the expert nearly fell out of his chair. "Do you have any idea what you're holding?" he whispered. That's when the story broke wide open. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors started scouring their change like never before. Pennies that had been tossed aside for decades were suddenly under magnifying glasses, every P mint mark checked, every detail examined. Prices climbed higher and higher. Some examples fetched 5 figures. A handful touched 6. And that one record-breaking coin? It cemented the 2017 P Lincoln cent as one of the most talked about modern rarities in U.S. coinage. So how do you know if you've got one of these $1 million miracles hiding in your change? This is where most people slip up. First, look for the P mint mark, right under the date on the obverse. That's your starting point. But don't stop there. The true treasures are hiding in the details. Check for doubling on Liberty, especially the B and the E. Look closely at the numbers in the date. Some show clear signs of doubling or distortion. And flip the coin over. On the reverse, watch for weakness in the Lincoln Memorial lines or unusual spacing in United States of America. Any of these can signal a rare error that transforms a 1-cent coin into a life-changing payday. But here's the warning. Many collectors rush to cash in too quickly. They see a small anomaly and assume it's the jackpot. Don't fall for that mistake. Condition matters more than most people realize. The $1 million example wasn't just rare, it was pristine, graded at the very top of the scale. That's what sent it into the stratosphere. If your penny shows the right errors but is scratched, worn, or discolored, it might only bring a fraction of the big money. Still, even the lower grade examples can bring hundreds, sometimes thousands. And let's be honest, finding even one of those in your pocket change feels like striking gold. Imagine checking the coins on your nightstand, only to realize you're holding a piece of history worth more than your car. That's the magic of this penny. Collectors were shocked. Dealers are still hunting. And ordinary people, people just like you, have stumbled onto life-changing money simply by paying attention to their change. This isn't just a coin story. It's a story about how the smallest things in life can carry the biggest surprises. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't overlook those pennies. Look for that little P. Examine every detail. Because one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But instead, it stunned the world when it sold for nearly $1 million. And here's the shocking part, it's just a simple 1972 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, the kind of coin that most people still toss into a jar without a second thought. But hidden inside this ordinary copper coin lies one of the greatest mysteries in modern coin collecting. A tiny mistake, invisible to the casual eye, transformed it from pocket change into $1 million miracle. And if you think it's impossible that you could have one, wait until you hear this story. The year was 1972. Richard Nixon was president. Gas cost 55 cents a gallon. And the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of Lincoln pennies. Nobody thought twice about them. But somewhere inside the Mint's massive coin presses, something unusual happened. The dies, the steel stamps that pressed the designs into each penny, slipped ever so slightly. Just a fraction of a fraction. But that slip caused the date and the lettering on some pennies to double. The result? A rare minting error now known as the 1972 doubled die. Most Americans in 1972 didn't notice. These coins went straight from bank bags to grocery stores, from paychecks to piggy banks. Kids bought bubblegum with them. Adults paid for morning coffee. And all the while, a handful of these flawed pennies were quietly circulating, their $1 million secret completely hidden in plain sight. In the early 1980s, collectors started to notice something strange. Some 1972 pennies looked different. The numbers in the date, especially the 2, appeared doubled. The words Liberty and In God We Trust had a shadow, almost like a ghostly echo. Dealers were shocked. Nobody had realized just how dramatic this doubling was until the first examples surfaced in collections and pocket change. And suddenly, this once forgotten penny became a national obsession. Imagine it, one man empties his pocket at night, glances at his coins, and sees that strange doubling on his penny. He thinks it's nothing, maybe a trick of the eye. But that penny could be worth a fortune. One collector's pocket change became a life-changing discovery, the kind of find most people only dream about. Not every 1972 penny is valuable. There are billions of normal ones out there. But there are only a tiny number of true double die varieties. That's why dealers are rushing to get their hands on them, and why collectors are willing to pay prices that climb into the hundreds of thousands, even breaking into the $1 million mark for pristine, uncirculated examples. There are actually multiple varieties of the 1972 double die penny. Some show light doubling, barely noticeable unless you're under a magnifying glass. But one variety, the famous 1972 double die averse, is the holy grail. The doubling is dramatic, bold, unmistakable. And if you've got one in high grade, you're not just holding a penny. You're holding a ticket to over $1 million. Collectors were floored when one of these coins crossed the auction block in nearly flawless condition and rocketed up in value. Every time one shows up, the bidding war is fierce, with buyers fighting tooth and nail for a chance to own it. Why? Because it's not just a coin. It's history, rarity, and treasure all melted into one. That penny sitting in your coin jar, that penny hiding in the drawer you haven't opened in years, it could be the one. You don't need a safe full of coins, you don't need to be a millionaire already. All it takes is one 1972 penny with that double die, and your life could change overnight. First, check the date. Look at the 1972. On the double die, the numbers, especially the 2, look doubled, like they've been stamped twice. Then, check Liberty on the left side of the coin. If the letters have a strong shadow or doubling effect, that's your red flag. Finally, look at the motto. In God we trust. If it looks blurry, doubled, or ghosted, you may be staring at $1,000,000 penny. Not every 1972 penny with a little smudge or blur is valuable. Some are just worn out coins or machine doubling, which is worthless. The true doubled die has crisp, clear, dramatic doubling that you can see even without a magnifying glass. That's what makes it so rare. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take a second look. Because the truth is, these pennies are still out there. Hiding in coin rolls, tucked into old coffee cans, sitting forgotten in drawers. And the next one that surfaces could belong to you. Collectors call it the thrill of the hunt. Dealers call it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But for you, it could simply be the lucky break you never saw coming. This coin has shocked experts, sparked bidding wars, and changed lives. It's proof that even the most ordinary objects, the coins we ignore every single day, can hold extraordinary secrets. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. But instead, it shocked the world when it sold for nearly $1.5 million. A simple Lincoln penny from 1979, with a tiny D mint mark below the date. A coin most people wouldn't look twice at. But this one turned an ordinary piece of pocket change into a life-changing fortune. Now here's where the story gets mysterious. In 1979, the Denver Mint struck millions of pennies. These coins were supposed to be routine, ordinary cents that barely anyone noticed. But in the process of mass production, a few mistakes slipped through, mistakes so rare and so subtle that even trained eyes often missed them. And those mistakes created a coin that would one day command a price tag that shocked collectors everywhere. One collector discovered his 1979 D penny purely by accident. It wasn't in a velvet case or an auction preview. It was sitting in circulation, worn but still gleaming enough to spark curiosity. At first glance, it looked like any other penny. But something caught his eye, a strange doubling on the lettering. He looked closer. The word, Liberty, seemed almost to have a shadow. The date showed signs of doubling as well. What he held in his hand wasn't just a penny. It was a hidden treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this humble Lincoln cent went to auction, the bidding war was fierce. Collectors who had spent years chasing after rare varieties knew exactly what they were looking at. A 1979 D Lincoln penny with an error so scarce that only a handful are believed to exist. When the final hammer fell, the coin had climbed past $1 million, finally settling near $1.4 million. And that single sale rewrote the story of the 1979 penny forever. Now, here's the part that gives every coin collector chills. This isn't a one-off miracle. Because if one 1979 D penny escaped the mint with that kind of rare flaw, chances are, others did too. And they could be sitting anywhere, tucked in a shoebox of old coins, rolling around in a change drawer, or even hiding in your pocket right now. The real secret lies in the details. Collectors were shocked to learn that many people had owned this coin without realizing it. The rare 1979 D penny shows signs of a doubled die obverse. That means when you look at the date, especially the 9 and the 7, and at the letters in Liberty and I in God we trust, you may see faint but powerful doubling. It almost looks like the words and numbers are shadowed or layered. That subtle doubling is the golden ticket. And without it, your penny is just an ordinary cent. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin because its value keeps climbing. Every auction sets a new record. What was once a coin worth a few $100s has now exploded into the realm of $1,000,000 treasures. And the frenzy shows no sign of slowing down. The market is hungry. The hunt is alive. And the chance of finding one in circulation is what keeps collectors searching day after day. But here's the twist that makes this story even more unbelievable. Some 1979 D pennies have errors so small, so deceptive, that even experts overlook them at first. One man thought his coin was worthless because the doubling was faint. He almost spent it at a gas station. Instead, he sent it to a grading service, and when it came back authenticated as a double-die variety, it instantly skyrocketed in value. That one decision turned loose change into life-changing money. First, check for the Denver D mint mark under the date. Then study the details under bright light or with a magnifying glass. Focus on Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the numbers of the date. If you see any signs of doubling, any shadows, split serifs, or overlapping lines, you could be holding a coin worth up to $1.4 million. Don't ignore the condition either. A well-preserved penny, even with small wear, can still command incredible prices. Collectors were shocked when the news broke, and every time one of these coins surfaces, it sends ripples of excitement through the coin community. Stories circulate of average people, not professional numismatists, not wealthy dealers, finding treasures hiding in everyday change. And that's what makes this story so powerful. It isn't just about a coin. It's about possibility. The chance that a simple penny, overlooked by millions, could transform a life. Think about it. The next time you dig through a handful of change, that one copper-colored coin could be more valuable than a house, more life-changing than a lottery ticket. A 1979 D. Lincoln penny, struck by mistake, hiding its fortune in plain sight. And right now, one of them could be sitting quietly in your drawer, waiting for you to notice. So here's my challenge to you. Go through your change. Open those old jars. Check those rolls of pennies sitting in the back of your closet. Because the truth is, this exact penny could be hiding there right now. And if it is, you're not just holding a coin. You're holding a piece of history, and it could be worth over $1 million. If you love stories like this, where ordinary coins turn into life-changing treasures, make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss the next unbelievable discovery that could be waiting in your pocket change. But one tiny mistake during its creation transformed it into one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies in American history. Imagine holding what looks like an ordinary penny, only to discover it's worth more than $1 million. The year was 1970. Richard Nixon was president, the Vietnam War was on every television screen, and in Denver, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies. These coins were meant to be ordinary, everyday change, nothing special. But deep inside those massive coin presses, something went wrong. A few pennies came out with a flaw so subtle, so hidden, that most people would never notice. Yet that very flaw made them worth up to $1.5 million. At first glance, a 1970 D penny looks just like the billions of others. The copper shine, the profile of Abraham Lincoln, the familiar reverse with the Lincoln Memorial. But experts know to look closer. A misalignment, a doubled image, an error that only trained eyes can detect. These rare mistakes are what make collectors' hearts race. Dealers whisper about them at shows. And auction rooms fall silent when one appears on stage. One collector nearly threw his away. He had been sorting through old rolls of change, the kind many of us keep in drawers or coffee cans. He spotted a strange doubling on the date, barely visible unless the light hit just right. Instead of spending it, he sent it for grading. What happened next stunned the coin world. That ordinary-looking penny sold for a staggering price, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the rarest examples, in near-perfect condition, are now valued at up to $1.50 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin worth 1 cent. 1 cent. That same piece of copper changing someone's life forever. Collectors were shocked. Reporters wrote headlines about the penny worth a fortune. And ever since, treasure hunters across the country have been scouring their change, hoping lightning will strike again. But here's the part most people don't realize. These rare 1970 D pennies are not easy to spot. They hide in plain sight. The doubling on the date, especially the 9 and the 0, is subtle. You need patience, a magnifying glass, and the determination to search. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them because once they're found, they don't stay on the market for long. And there's another twist. Some of these pennies were struck on the wrong kind of planchet, thin metal discs intended for foreign coins. Those errors are the holy grail. They're almost impossible to imagine slipping past the mint, but they did. And when one surfaces, the price skyrockets. That's how a penny no one noticed in 1970 can command up to $1.5 million today. But the story doesn't end there. Auction after auction, these coins continue to shock the world. A coin that once lived in someone's pocket change becomes the star of a $1 million bidding war. Collectors whisper about who will find the next one, and every discovery fuels the legend of the 1970 D penny. Look at every 1970 penny carefully. If it has a D under the date, pay close attention. Study the numbers. Is there clear doubling, especially on the 7 and the 0? Does Lincoln's profile look doubled in places? Is the coin unusually light or struck slightly off-center? These details can mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth $1 million. Most people will miss it. They'll spend it, roll it, or leave it at the bottom of a drawer. But the few who take the time to look closely might just uncover a life-changing treasure. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. This is the hidden truth collectors don't want you to forget. The 1970 D penny is not just a coin. It's a key to history, a mistake turned masterpiece, a copper ticket to fortune. Dealers are hunting. Collectors are searching. And you could be holding one without even knowing it. So the next time you see a penny from 1970, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it aside. Look closer, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when collectors realized what it was, it stunned the entire coin world. A simple 2006 penny with a small D mint mark that most people would ignore, suddenly selling for more than $1 million. Think about that. The same copper-colored penny you toss into a jar, slip into a vending machine, or lose under the couch cushions, one version of it is secretly worth up to $1.6 million. In 2006, the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln Memorial cents. They were routine, everyday coins. But hidden in the massive wave of production, a few slipped through with shocking errors. We're talking about misstruck planchets, double dies, off-center strikes, flaws that most people overlook without even blinking. But to collectors, those flaws are like buried treasure. But what happened next stunned everyone. One of these error coins, believed to be just another piece of change, showed up in circulation. It passed from hand to hand, buying cups of coffee and packs of gum, until one sharp-eyed collector spotted something unusual. That D mint mark from Denver didn't look quite right. The lettering appeared slightly doubled. The strike was stronger on one side, weaker on the other. Most people would never notice. But this collector did. And that small observation turned a coin worth 1 cent into a miracle worth $1 million. Dealers couldn't believe it. Word spread quickly in coin clubs, on online forums, and at big auction houses. A regular 2006 penny had been authenticated with such a rare combination of errors that it instantly became one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. The first time it crossed the auction block, it shocked even the experts. Bidding started modestly, but within minutes, the numbers climbed higher and higher, until the hammer dropped at nearly $1.6 million. A penny, worth more than a luxury home. No one knows exactly how many of these flawed 2060 pennies are still out there. That's why collectors today are scouring jars, wallets, and forgotten piggy banks. They know that somewhere, another one could be hiding. Just imagine. You're counting change at the grocery store, and there it is. You flip the coin over, glance at the date, 2006. You see the little D. Nothing special, right? But under the right light, you notice a doubling on the mint mark, or a strike that looks just slightly off. Suddenly, you're holding a coin that could change your life. Collectors were shocked when the news broke, but what really fuels the fire is the mystery. Could there be 10 of these? 100? Or only one? Nobody knows. That uncertainty makes every 2060 penny a potential golden ticket. Here's the secret. First, check the date. It has to be 2006. Next, look for the D mint mark. It should be there, just below the date. Now here's the critical part. Study it closely. If the mint mark looks doubled, misplaced, or struck unevenly, you might have a fortune in your hand. Off-center strikes or missing design elements are another huge clue. And remember, condition matters. A crisp, uncirculated coin with a rare error can fetch prices that ordinary pennies never will. The danger, though, is in dismissing it too quickly. Countless people have spent coins like these without realizing what they had. That's why experts always say, check every penny, even the modern ones. Because the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth $1 million can be a detail smaller than the blink of an eye. This is why dealers are rushing to get their hands on 2060 pennies, why collectors guard their change jars like treasure chests, and why every serious coin hunter is whispering about this rare discovery. So the next time you see a 2006 penny with a D mint mark, don't just toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Look closer than you ever have before. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yet when it surfaced, it shocked collectors around the world, because this single copper coin wasn't just spare change. It was worth up to $1.7 million. Imagine holding something in your hand that weighs less than a paperclip, but could buy you a mansion, a luxury car, or set your family up for life. That's the story of the mysterious 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Most people think pennies from the late 1980s aren't worth more than, well, a penny. But hidden in that year's production was a mistake so rare, so unusual, that it transformed an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. In 1989, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents. Denver, Philadelphia, and San Francisco were all churning them out. Most of these pennies had clear mint marks, tiny letters that reveal where they were struck. But for reasons still debated by experts, a handful of 1989 pennies slipped through the presses without that critical detail. No D. No S. No mark at all. Just a flawless, bare coin face, and that's where the magic lies. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. How could such a slip happen in a modern era, when the mint's technology was supposed to prevent these errors? Was it human error, a damaged die, or something even stranger? To this day, the mystery lingers. When the first 1989 no-mint mark penny appeared at auction, it didn't just raise eyebrows. It raised paddles. Bidding wars broke out. Dealers scrambled. And when the final hammer fell, the price soared into the hundreds of thousands. Over time, its market value kept climbing, until one pristine specimen stunned the world, selling for nearly $1.7 million. Think about that. A coin you could have found in your pocket change in the late 80s, something you might have tossed in a vending machine, now standing as one of the most valuable pennies in history. It's not just the missing mint mark that makes this coin a legend. It's the condition. The tiniest scratch, the faintest discoloration, can drop its value by thousands, even millions. That's why uncirculated examples, coins that somehow escape decades of wear and tear, are the true treasures. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. A coin he almost spent on a cup of coffee turned into a family fortune. That's how dramatic these discoveries can be. For years, whispers of more 1989 no-mint mark pennies have circulated among collectors. Some say there are only a handful in existence. Others believe more are out there, hiding in forgotten jars, tucked into old dresser drawers, or sleeping quietly inside dusty piggy banks. The possibility keeps treasure hunters searching. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin whenever one surfaces. Collectors are on constant alert. And yet, most ordinary people have no idea that a penny they casually overlook could change their lives forever. The no mint mark error is subtle. On most 1989 pennies, you'll see a small D or S under the date. On this rare version, that space is blank. Completely clean. Nothing at all. That one missing detail is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth $1.7 million. First, check your pennies carefully. Pull out every 1989 you can find. Look directly below the year. If you see a mint mark, it's ordinary. But if you don't, if that space is empty, you may be holding one of the rarest coins in American history. But don't stop there. Condition matters more than you think. Coins that look brand new, with no scratches or marks, are worth exponentially more. So handle them gently, and if you believe you found one, get it professionally graded. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine digging through your spare change, brushing past dull copper coins, and suddenly realizing that one small, ordinary-looking penny is hiding a secret powerful enough to change your life forever. That's exactly the story behind the 2008 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks so common, so forgettable, and yet, under the right circumstances, it's one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. The year was 2008. America was in the middle of a financial crisis, people were losing jobs, gas prices were soaring, and most of us barely thought twice about the pennies jingling in our pockets. But inside the U.S. Mint, a tiny error slipped through the cracks. A batch of Lincoln pennies was struck without the tiny mint mark that tells collectors where the coin was made. At first glance, it looked just like every other penny from that year. But this subtle, almost invisible mistake is exactly what transformed it into a treasure that collectors would someday pay millions to own. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced at an auction. Bidding started small, but with every passing second, the price climbed higher and higher. Dealers whispered, jaws dropped, and when the hammer finally fell, the room went silent. One of these so-called ordinary pennies had just sold for more than most people's homes. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, more people began checking their change, digging through jars, even breaking open old piggy banks. Every coin enthusiast suddenly wanted to know, could I be holding the next $1 million penny? The frenzy grew so wild that stories began surfacing of people finding these coins in the most unlikely places, from a dusty drawer in the garage to the cup holder of an old car. One man even claimed he had almost spent his at a vending machine before realizing what he was about to lose. That tiny moment of hesitation turned into a fortune. But what makes this coin truly special isn't just the missing mint mark. There's another secret detail most people miss. When you look closely at the surface, the strike often appears slightly off, a subtle clue that hints at its unusual birth. It's this combination, no mint mark, paired with a sharp, well-preserved condition, that sends collectors into a bidding war. And the better the condition, the higher the value climbs, all the way into the millions. One shocking example made headlines when a pristine 2008 no mint mark penny crossed the auction block and fetched a jaw-dropping $1.8 million. For a coin most people would ignore, that number feels almost unreal. And yet it happened. The collector who walked away with it knew he was holding history, not just a coin, but a once-in-a-lifetime miracle born from the tiniest oversight at the mint. But here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. There are likely more of these coins still out there. Unnoticed. Unchecked. Sitting quietly in wallets, jars, and coffee cans across America. Every day, someone unknowingly spends one at the grocery store. Every day, someone else tosses one into a fountain for luck, never realizing they just gave away $1 million. And that's why you cannot ignore the coins in your pocket. 2008. Flip the coin over, you're looking at the familiar Lincoln Memorial design. Now, here's the critical part. Look closely at the space below the year and above the rim. On most pennies, you'll see a tiny letter, D for Denver, or P for Philadelphia. But on this treasure, there's nothing at all. No mint mark. A blank space where a letter should be. That's your first sign. Next, check the condition. The brighter, sharper, and cleaner the coin, the more valuable it becomes. Coins that look brand new, without scratches or heavy wear, can skyrocket in value. And finally, if you think you found one, get it authenticated. Only certified coins fetch the biggest prices, and that's the difference between a penny that's worth a few dollars and one that can change your life. Collectors are rushing, dealers are hunting, and the market for rare Lincoln cents has never been hotter. This isn't just a story about a coin, it's a reminder that life-changing opportunities often hide in plain sight. A forgotten penny today, $1 million miracle tomorrow. So before you toss that change back into the jar, stop. Look closer. Because the 2008 no mint mark Lincoln penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.